to follow along, but can I?
Most of us don't have our tablets.
Oh, that's true. So I'll talk you through it.
Well, we could share. About every other one has one. David, you share with Roy. So you can share mine and I'll share with Jackie.
All right, so the first topic that I wanted to just have a little discussion on was, again, back to the idea of the rules of order that we would utilize. I also sent out another, just a version of the Rosenbergs, just so you could look at them again. And what we what we're proposing is to, oh, all right, it's up on the screen. So what we're proposing, can I blow that up? Can you blow it up on me? Is to use Rosenberg's as the base, but there were two specific exceptions that we saw that really didn't match what we commonly do. First is to require a second to any motion for it to move forward. In Rosenberg's, it recommends not to that. So putting in that exception here, and then also the process we've adopted or used on discussing items is to have the discussion prior to a motion being made, because sometimes that comes across to the public like a decision has already been made when a motion gets made and then you discuss it. They came up, that was something that came up, I think, when we were in the community center. They felt like that was, like the decision was foregone. It had already been made because that was the motion, and then even though the discussion happened after and the vote could go either way. So we've adopted the practice of just talking about an item, and then the mayor or the person in the chair would ask for a motion once the discussion has kind of taken place and public feedback and all of that. So those are the two exceptions that we would propose, but like to just kind of check in, make sure that this is still what people are interested in going forward.
I'll be the first. Once again, I've always been a thing, if it ain't broke, why fix it? And while I understand that Robert's Rules of Order and such are big, wieldy, have we had any problems with using that in the past?
Well, what I would say to that is, I don't think we're following Robert's Rules of Order. I don't think we follow them. And so saying that that's our base, I don't think is accurate. So what I think Rosenberg's better reflects the practices we've been doing. And so that's why we propose that, with these two exceptions that don't match what we've commonly done.
I think there was a consensus from the council. That's the direction they wanted to go anyway, wasn't it?
I think the last time we,
At a previous meeting, yeah.
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 All right. So any other discussion on that point? Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Councilor McCarthy?
Will we have an opportunity, and I'm saying that because I'd like one, to review Rosenberg's again?
Yeah, we can go into it when we kind of go through this as an adoption,
Okay, thank you.
and we can review it.
Maybe the council can get a copy of it.
Yeah, it was in the
our
packet
packet.
tonight.
It is in our packet tonight. Okay.
The next one is on the in the section related to meetings. We'd had a brief discussion a couple of times about whether we wanted to continue to meet on the days that we do meet, second and fourth Mondays. That is the same nights as the school board meets for their meetings. And so I know just has been expressed to me, one of the candidates that's filed to run has a work requirement that requires him to be at the school board meetings, and so he was interested in this topic as being potentially moving away from the conflict. But that'd be up to the discussion. And we talked about first and third Mondays. We also talked about, do you go to second and fourth Tuesdays, or do we just stay the same? And I would say there hasn't been a lot of conflicts in the last 10 years, but there has been probably half dozen to maybe 8-ish where people had to juggle to be at one or the other first, and we accommodated with moving agenda items or different things like that. So be open to hear what the council would like to do on this issue.
Council Primer?
So one of the things that I was considering, and as you brought it up, we do have a change coming in the council's makeup, and a significant portion of the members of the council are going to be changing positions, if not being completely replaced. And therefore, it's my opinion that maybe we should hold off on making any changes to this on a permanent level, or even some of these discussions, until after the first of the year, so that the new council would be able to participate in making the rules for themselves, as opposed to us telling them what they're going to do. Or on the other option is that all the candidates are invited to participate in this part of this, in future discussions about this, so that they can have some input into it as well. That's my
I
4.5 cents worth.
I can see that. I would also say from the rules standpoint, they're going to be totally new, potentially, a bunch of in January. And so they're not going to be really familiar with any of this. So it's all going to be new, whether it is what we currently do or if it's some slightly different. I mean, there's not a lot of major kind of shifts in what we've been talking about. There's a few, but I'll be open to whatever the council wants to direct.
Did the school district also have this conversation?
About the
Dates?
dates. They've had it kind of off and on, but I don't know how recently they may have had a conversation.
Okay.
I think related to the marijuana issue recently, they may have had some conversation, but I don't know.
And to your point about the one candidate that's running, it may give them clarity too, of whether they can participate or not.
Yeah, or, I don't know if they can assign somebody else to take care of that responsibility, but I know that was a concern for him.
And the rules are reviewed on a regular basis, right? They've been updated a dozen times or so.
Yeah, right.
Councilor McCarthy?
I think it would be prudent to make no change to our current regular meeting schedule and then allow the potentially new counselors input when they do that. I'm not particularly in favor of existing, while they are still candidates being part of the conversation, because I don't want to associate in particular favoritism for one candidate's needs over another one, if they have a preference that some of us might disagree with. So I think if we engage in a group discussion with those new counselors, so I would be in favor right now of keeping our standard second and fourth Mondays.
Well, and this one could stay totally until then, if we want to move forward with the rest of them. I mean, it wouldn't be preclude talking about it again in January, particularly this one.
Councilor Drawn?
Yes, I think well, I guess I can't assume, but my understanding of the discussion that we're having is that we're only focusing in on the agenda. I don't think we have an issue with the rest. We're just talking about the meetings, the city council meetings. It's my understanding.
Well, I wasn't sure whether Councilor Primer was talking about all of the rules or just this one in particular.
Quite frankly, I think all of them, just because, again, yes, they don't know, or, they're not a party to the rules as they're set right now. They do have access to them. They can read them. They can participate in our process. But again, basically about half the council is going to be changing. And therefore, I think it would be a better thing if we gave them some say as to what, the way that the direction the council does things moving forward.
Councilor Myers?
But not before we know who's elected.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So then it would be like at the goal setting maybe, or something like that?
Or, I mean, potentially after November, we'd know the people, they could come to could ask them to attend a meeting and participate in the discussion. They wouldn't necessarily have a vote at that point, but.
Council Brown?
I personally think that, I mean, we have this presented to us and I feel like we should make the changes accordingly. I mean, experience, we've been through at least a term, everybody here. And so for the most part, we know how things roll. At the same time, we can always amend things if they're different. I'm of the opinion if they truly want to make, insert their opinion or something like that, they could be here. They could be part of the discussion. We've certainly had conversations about this for weeks already. And so, I'm not opposed to changing these in the future whatsoever, but I think the experience that we have here at the table, we can set a good precedent, for other counselors coming along. And so I think this would give counselors a little bit more clarity. As a council, or as the city manager said, we don't really have something that we've been following to the T. And so this can give some clarity. If there are some issues, we can work through those issues and the new council, I think, can address them. But I think with the experience that we have here and the knowledge, I feel like we can do this.
I don't know that we're making, or it's being recommended that there's any earth-shattering changes here. I mean, these are common practices that we're already participating in, right? So, and these are practices that, to your point, experienced counselors could make intelligent, competent decisions about the future direction of this council. And that can carry on for the next generation of counselors. And if they want to change it, they can always bring it back up and change it later too. Were you raising your hand or adjusting your glasses? Oh, Counselor Drawn?
Excuse me. I also think that the same thing, because we had already led you to believe that we were going to proceed with the changes that you offered, because we've gone through this discussion we've had this is the third or fourth time that you've come to us with this same topic. And I think we asked you we suggested some changes. Now you're coming back so that we can review those changes, because we were happy with the presentation that you had done. So I think, to me, that if we had a problem as the council, then we should have told you that since the very beginning, so you didn't have to spend all that time looking into this.
Well, we already have spent all that time looking into it, and that was the direction that we gave you, and I think we should proceed.
Okay. I think there's some consensus there.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
And on this in particular, I kind of heard maybe we keep this and have it as a discussion once we get some clarity as to the candidates.
I
Or
think
what do you
we're
think? Or
going to
just
keep
leave
it
it
the way
the
it
same?
is. I mean, it
Well,
can
that's
always
what I
be-
mean. Leave it like it is.
Yep.
And then we can bring it up in the future if we want to talk
That's
about
what I heard.
it. Okay. Okay.
Yes, Councilor McCarthy?
Just a point of clarification. I don't know if the language matters or not. On number 8, where it says second Monday or fourth Monday under work sessions.
Yeah,
Does that
we
mean,
didn't.
does
we
that
didn't
only allow us to have
always-
one work session?
Yeah, so we don't always have a work session. So sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. That's why the or.
Okay.
All right, on this one, special meetings, there was some discussion about how we notify related to holding a special meeting or holding an emergency meeting. And it was requested to maybe exempt text messaging as as one of the methods for this. More, I think, from a concern of not wanting personal devices maybe being open to searching. Discovery. So one thing, and that's why we have this up here to, as a possible way to word it. But I would offer, as we were talking about it internally as staff, from a public records request standpoint, they would never have access to the device. Staff would ask that we get anything from the device about the calling of a meeting. But unless it went to a lawsuit where they were subpoenaing records or something, we would never turn over a device to someone based on a public records request. That's the way, I mean, that's the way our city attorney is advising us. So, there would be potentially that we would want to take a screenshot of a phone, text string or something to show from different devices, but there would be no turning over the device and let them take whatever they want from it. We would just be getting the records that they requested and providing them. So just as a clarification, we're fine. I mean, text messaging is definitely easy, but it's not that none of those, we could utilize those other methods as well. It wouldn't be that difficult. So I'd like to know, do you want me to leave that? Want us to leave that language in, take it out? What do you think?
So as it's highlighted, it would be text messaging is not okay. when you
Right, we would
communicate.
not be able to call a special meeting via text message or notify you that we were going to have a special meeting or an emergency meeting via text.
Okay, what's the council think about that? I mean, you notify us regularly about emergencies, and it's like the quickest, most efficient way to get notification, it seems like, to most folks. If this was some sort of special emergent type meeting, I mean, we've eliminated that.
And that's kind of, that was our concern with this, and that's why we wanted to see if, just clarifying what we thought our response to a records request would look like. But, I mean, either way, we can still do it.
Councilor McCarthy?
So trying to imagine, fill in the blanks where I miss here, but since we're not in our same, let's say, a group text that someone might send out, calling for a special meeting, would a situation where a council or mayor feels like a special meeting is warranted, would, as mayor or councilors, need to reach out to the city manager individually, and then once you had a certain number of people reach out, it would then be called? Or what's the hypothetical where
Right,
we
I mean,
actually are
the
able to
way
make
this, like the special meeting, there would be 3 or more council members or the mayor or the city manager would be able to call that special meeting. So on the 3 or more, that would be an individual, conversation with me or with the mayor or something like that to initiate it. Then this language really seems to be more about how we notify people of when it's going to happen, more than the conversation about whether we should or shouldn't have it. And so that's,
Yes, I would agree that the conversation that I think is highlighted there is just whether or not we want to be texted.
I think that texting is not I mean, agreed. I agree with it. It is in that it is, while it is efficient, I think it's easier to, because I mean, if we're calling for a meeting, somebody's going to want to know what the heck's going on, and it's going to be more than just a, 120, 148 characters telling us what's going on, as opposed to, hey, why are we doing this? What's going on? This is the situation. So
Okay, how's everybody else feel? Leave it out?
leave it out or leave it in? Leave texting out as an
Leaving
option?
texting out
Okay.
as an option is what I'm
Okay.
saying.
keep what you got on the screen.
Okay,
Is that? Yeah?
okay,
Okay, I think that's consensus.
all right. All right, there was also some interest in making sure we clarified, some of this section is about the conversations that you would have amongst yourselves and trying to stay away from city business. So this new paragraph was just, you might be together at a community event and something in the community, and just warning or just saying, hey, stay away from city topics, hey, this issue's coming up, how are you going to vote? None of that kind of talk. That really makes Rich nervous.
Riding in the back of the float.
Yeah, riding on the back of a float or
National Night Out.
yeah,
Night out,
national
yeah.
night out, whatever. So is that, you think this is clarifying enough? Make sure, and then, we can always make sure we highlight that when we go work with new counselors and things like that. So.
Yes, Councilman Burr.
Right,
That's our current practice, yeah.
yeah. All right, this one, a little hard to show. It's kind of come across 2 pages. So canceling a meeting, under the current set of rules that we proposed, there was, okay, and this is how we've done it in the past. So like when we want to cancel the second meeting in December, the council votes on it at a meeting and we cancel it. The other one is more on it. Let's say it's April and the second meeting in April, we don't have anything for the agenda, and how do we cancel it in that scenario? So that's what that initial bullet point says. If there's no business to transact or a quorum can attend, the mayor, upon the recommendation of the city manager, could cancel the meeting. And there was some concern about the mayor doing that versus the council. So the highlighted, it would be an alternative, which would really only leave one option, which is at a prior meeting to cancel.
No, at a prior meeting, you weren't gonna have any business?
Not typically. I mean, well, I guess I would say typically, yes. We would be kind of, we're looking ahead all the time, and we might know, but a lot of times things come up, and so we wouldn't always be ready to say, yeah, for sure, we're not going to have anything for the next meeting. So, but we've had that. There's nothing against having just approval of minutes and that kind of stuff, and then you adjourn the meeting. That isn't, there's nothing bad about that. So, just going with that alternative highlighted language wouldn't be bad.
Feelings? Thoughts about this? Yeah, Councilor McCarthy?
I can manage a handful of scenarios involving potentially heightened emotions, whether it be from counselors or the public, where the option to move to adjourn the meeting that we're in could be helpful for the purposes of.
Okay, that one's in, we have another one
Different.
of those later on.
That's
Yeah.
separate from cancellation?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay, that's really what I wanted
Prior
to
to the meeting
clarify.
taking place.
right,
Okay.
right.
Look,
Yeah, Councilor Burr?
my thoughts on it is, the way the original version has 2 options, whereas the alternative only has 1. I think sticking with the original, me
Okay.
personally, but
Okay.
either way is good.
Anybody else have any thoughts about it?
Would you say that one more time?
The original recipe is, there's 2 methods in which the meeting can be canceled. Whereas in the alternative version, there's only 1 way it can be canceled.
And it would have to be done essentially
have to be
at
done
the
ahead of
previous
time.
meeting or
Right, would give
meetings.
no option to do
Would give
one
no option between.
after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we've used the mayor option, but maybe once, if that,
I'm not
I
sure
can't
what
even
it is.
think of
I can't
any
think
that we've done that way
long ago,
since I've
maybe,
been
I
here,
don't know,
but
but,
yeah.
but I mean, at least it's,
It
at
is an
least it's an option in the event of,
Now that
stuff
somebody's
happening.
going to be a mayor, they kind of like that option. 'Cause wasn't he the one that actually suggested we take that out?
That's true.
But he's thinking about it, so
And now there's some clarity, like maybe that we should keep that in there. I think it makes sense to give the council some flexibility and the administration some flexibility, because you just never know sometimes.
yeah.
Not happened, but it would be an option. Anybody have a problem with it?
And I think that probably the quorum one is probably just, I mean, we haven't really talked about that as much, but that's probably just as relevant as,
Right.
A lot of times we do hear about that, and we'll hear, these people are sick, these people are out of town, we can't
Yeah.
do business. So
Be the day of the meeting.
being able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna
I have
leave
a
that one
question
as is,
regarding
yeah.
that.
Mr. McCarthy?
So that's specific to canceling. Is there also language where, let's say something's on the agenda, but like, for example, the marijuana discussion was gonna happen during the council meeting where half of us were in DC and we moved that? Is there additional changes to a situation like that where it had been placed on the agenda, but it's been required to be moved and
Well,
thus
we,
the agenda be amended, or?
yeah, there's flexibility in the meeting agenda section. I don't know right where that is to be able to change the agenda. And so, no, they're not new language. It's our current practice.
Mhm.
I think the next one's a little way, so, although, no, I don't want you to look at the screen and get motion sick. So it was brought up, the last time we were talking about this, about written comments and electronic written comments. So we added this highlighted area to kind of, I think we think it deals with all the situations we could kind of come up with, both, you know, if somebody emails us or if they make a comment in the chat feature on, Zoom and things like that. So we feel like it's pretty comprehensive, a little longer than we thought it would be, but yeah.
When I read through it, it seemed like it made sense.
Okay.
And there's a time limit on there, which I think makes sense too. It's got to be before or during the meeting.
Right. It needs to be during that same time period that anybody would make a comment. So that then the council could consider it while making their decision. Okay. Also, last time there was an interest in having a definition for ex parte communication. I think that we didn't know quite where to put it, but that ended up being the best place we could come up with. So just making sure that people know if they have any conversations with somebody about a hearing subject, because that's really only the situation that comes up is when it's a public hearing. There's more kind of legal language about that in the state code. So, and particularly land use and things like that. Yeah, land use is probably the only one where it specifically is called out, but. Okay. Now we're going a ways. Okay, there was some discussion about this related to elected officials getting involved in day-to-day operations in departments. And, you know, if you remember from the original version of this, it was really targeted at the police department. And so we broadened this language, and it was put in, I think everybody that was here at the time knows it was put in for a certain situation. And so what we tried to do is to make it more broad and try to, it could happen in any department, somebody getting too involved and wanting to, you know, influence staff. And, you know, I know a lot of, maybe some of you don't think that you have any extra influence, but you do. When you walk up to the counter and ask for something and they know you're a city councilor, they're going to feel a different level of pressure, or not that you're trying to make, you know, but they know you're a city councilor, so they want to do a good job. And so we just want to make sure that it's clear, you know, to future councilors that, you know, what the parameters are. So be happy to talk about any of the specifics, but we tried to make it, you know, it doesn't prohibit getting to, you know, getting and learning more about the departments, all those kinds of things, but just kind of setting some parameters around that.
Ms. Smith, could you give me an example of why it would be appropriate if the elected official desires to have that time without the city manager present? Why you feel you're comfortable with that?
Yes, I'm comfortable with that because I guess I have a level of trust with my department heads that if something came up and they and they would let me know whatever that discussion was about. So I'm not uncomfortable with that. I would guess, I mean, I guess I could see a scenario where maybe a counselor felt like the department head had a different opinion than what I had, and so I was kind of overruling them, and they wanted to get that department head to get that information from them or whatever. Just, you know, I don't know how that would work, but I don't really feel like that's how our organization works, and I don't foresee a problem, but
Counselor Peterson?
So I can say just from experience that when I first started, and it was like the monthly budget. And I asked if I could meet with the city accountant because I wanted to understand the process more. And, City Manager Smith sat in on that, but it was just an informative, like, hey, here's how the budget works. And because I was not familiar with it at all. So we didn't get into any decision-making type thing. It was just like when you see the monthly budget each month, here's what's going on. And so, it was just a, how-to type of thing. But I can see where that might be something where, City Manager Smith might feel okay about like not sitting in on it, but because it was just basically accounting 101 at the city level.
But this is specifically the elected official asks the city manager not to sit in that meeting. So
would you like to strike that? I mean,
I don't know.
Okay.
It's your level of comfort.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to you. Counselor Myers had her hand up.
Do you think it's a good idea?
I'm okay. Like I said, right now, I mean, could it change with department heads and change over? Maybe.
Yeah, but you have to be covered in that.
Right. I
These words are in here.
Right.
These words are in here.
right. And I would say I'm comfortable. My department heads are going to tell me if something comes up that I need to know about. I feel very comfortable with that.
Counselor Brown?
I mean, that makes me think of when we were talking about the rules earlier, and we were talking about just the situation about when counselors can call a meeting, whether it's 1, 2, and I know we talked about like, well, we know the council, we know who we are, but we also discussed, well, at some point, we're not always going to be in these council seats, and at some point, we're going to have maybe different department heads and different city managers 10, 20, 30 years down the line. So I guess with that in mind, do you still feel that way? I guess it makes me think a little bit more just
Well,
when different people are going to.
I guess from my standpoint, I have a lot more to say about who department heads are versus the council being able to say who each other is, right? I mean, we have to leave that up to the electorate, where I'm the ultimate decision maker on hiring those people. So that's why I guess I would keep that level of comfort.
Counselor Drown?
I don't feel comfortable with that. And the only reason being, I think it's because it also puts the department head in a tough situation. If the council member is requesting something that perhaps seems like a normal thing when maybe the counselor is stepping out of bounds, or we don't understand the level of work that it may take to carry out that task. I hope that you would feel comfortable telling a council member, even though it may not, I don't know. I think you should feel comfortable in telling a councilor member, like, sorry, but at this time, we're busy with so many different things. I think your request may not be able to carry through in a timely manner. Or, with respect, but this is like micromanaging or something. I don't know. But I just think that to cover your department head, it would be wise to have you or the assistant city manager there.
Well, I guess
Or
to answer
city.
that kind of scenario, I would say that's where hopefully my department head's going to come back and say, they asked me to do this. I can't do this. I have other things. I can't devote resource to that. Then it would be my job to go back and say, we can't do what you asked. We might be able to do X, Y, Z, or, if there's some other option, but that would still be my role, where they would say, I can't really deal with that. And then I take that on. So they don't have to be the ones saying no. Because that should be my job. I agree.
They should always ask you anyway, though. Counselor Myers?
But you can't make them tell you what the counselor said.
No, I mean, I can't.
That's part of why.
Counselor Linton?
For clarification here, so I can make sure that I'm understanding what's being said. You would like, say for instance, I wanted to talk to, I don't know, a department head. And I'm supposed to call you first, and then you call the department head, and then set up the meeting, call me back and say where the meeting is.
Mhm.
I don't understand why the department head, since they know their schedule, can't say, okay, I can meet with you on Monday at 3 PM. Is that a good time for you? Because it seems like to me, going back and forth, you'd be going back and forth, back and forth. And I can see it if you want to be there once the schedule, a meeting has been scheduled. And then if you wanted to be there, I really don't, personally, if the person is in, over a department and we're having a discussion or I'm asking questions for clarification or whatever, and if it's something that they can't do, I think they should be able to, as being in authority and over, and there are people under him that they have to say no to, or you do this or do that. They should be able to say, well, we can't do that, or I'm gonna have to have further discussion with the city manager, and then we'll get back with you and let you know.
Well, on some of that, I don't disagree, but at the same point, like I was saying earlier, including department heads, you guys are elected officials. In their minds, that's different, and it is different. And so they sometimes might feel extra pressure to do those things or whatever. And on the scheduling piece, we would want to make it as quick and easy as possible. We would coordinate that, but the, you know, the questions and the things that, and ultimately I'm responsible to you for any questions you have, right? So I want to know what those questions are. That's why I would want to be there. So if a counselor has a problem with the water department because we've been, you know, because we cut off this certain person, or we raised rates or whatever, I want to be there so I can be able to help answer the question and be ready, you know, if it needs to turn into a citywide discussion, that's my role to make that discussion happen. So that's why, I mean, that's why I would like to be there in most cases.
Counselor Premier, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, so my concern on this one is, and again, not with you not in, you know, with it being, say, someone else, you know, something happened and you're no longer here. But are we okay in regards to that as it relates to the whistleblower act, so to speak? You know, by, you know, if we have somebody that wants to, you know, that has a problem with that, and if we, you know, if we're meeting this then we would be violating these rules if we met with them outside of that.
Well, I mean, I think you can correct my legal opinion, but I think the Whistleblower Act would overrule this clearly. If somebody was blowing the whistle on me doing something wrong, that would clearly overrule violation of council rules. Okay.
There's not really a violation of rules.
Yeah.
Okay, like I said, I just, you know, the whole thing
Yeah.
is that, you know, if somebody has something that they want to bring to council and, you know, and they don't feel like it's being properly addressed, I don't think it would be a bad thing that, you know, if somebody wants to talk to us specifically as opposed to through an intermediary.
Mhm.
So
Well, and that's why I mean, that's why that's in there to
It
allow
says-
that option.
it does say should, so.
Yeah.
Well, and this is in relationship to the council's relationship with the city, not necessarily the employees coming to us, right? So we're
Right,
requesting
right.
time.
If
Okay.
the employee had something and they wanted to have a meeting, I mean, would I like to know about it? Sure. But if it was something that to the whistleblower level, something like that, I mean, that's still they're protected in that right.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
How's
Councilor
council feel?
McCarthy.
Yeah, Counselor McCarthy.
So the language in here specifically is related to if a counselor desires to not have the city manager present. But I suppose this would also allow for if we just want to have a meeting with a department head or want to do a ride along you may not feel the necessity based on what the need is for you to be there
Right,
as well.
right.
It could always
So this could
decline.
allow for
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
don't have
I've
to.
not, I know a number of you have gone on ride-alongs with the PD. I didn't, I didn't go in the car with you either. So
I think the,
just knowing the interaction was happening.
yeah, I think the way I read this, though, it says we can purposely exclude the city manager from a conversation. That makes me feel uncomfortable if I was in his position. So, I mean, it almost feels like, we have one employee we hire. And he's, management over everybody else. And so our role and responsibility is to evaluate and work with that employee. And so it almost feels like we're getting into management a little bit, and that makes me feel uncomfortable, so. But
Okay.
I go with the will of the council. Like it, want to take it out, strike it? Okay. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I support it.
Okay,
I support
Take it
the-
out.
Take it out, take that part out? Okay, we'll do that.
all right, we got short time window here, we got to
I
move it
think
along.
we're,
Getting close?
yeah, we're pretty
I know. With this council?
Okay, here's the question you brought up, Counselor McCarthy. If we can't keep order in a meeting, the presiding officer can adjourn the meeting, a vote of the council, a recommendation by me, the city attorney, or whoever might be in charge from the staff standpoint. So if we need to end the meeting because there's a riot or whatever, then
Yeah,
we can't
no,
keep
because
it
somebody in
under
the audience,
control.
can't keep under
Yeah,
control.
we
I can
can-
just
We can
recess
gavel it down and be done.
generally, yeah. Or council can motion.
No, I mean, it looks like the presiding officer can adjourn the meeting.
Yeah.
Just if they want to do it, they can do it.
Or the council could
Or if the
overrule
council-
me and
yeah.
say,
But it's,
we need to
but it
adjourn this.
specifically says if order is unable to be maintained.
Right.
And that would be the only basic
reason.
reason for doing that.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so this one, we just had this situation, that's why we're bringing it up. Right now in the rules, it says basically you can't appoint a city employee to a committee, a city committee. And we put up there a potential reason why you might want to. So the Umatilla County Fair Board asked for one of their members to be appointed to the OTEC Advisory Committee, but he's a city employee. And so we had to say no in that instance because that's what the council rules say. But do you want to consider that as an exception potentially? I don't know that it would be very often. I think we have only a couple other committees where, like, the chamber makes a recommendation or other groups besides the fair and the rodeo. So it wouldn't come up very often.
I personally just don't think city employees should be on in those appointments,
Okay?
personally, but. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, so we can take that out. The other, we did add some, so elected officials, council members are not voting members of the committees except in one instance, and that's the Recreation Project Advisory Committee. So we just added that language to show that there is that one exception. Then the final thing in the paragraph, we talked a little bit about, do we leave the limit? Do we take it out? When you take it out, you start to think about, well, now somebody who we buy dinner from could be exempted from serving on a committee because they sold us something. So our thoughts is we probably should have that number in there, and if we want to raise it or something like that, so that we don't limit our possible committee members, because we struggle already trying to fill the committees sometimes. So
Do you have a recommendation?
I think if we put 15,000, we've caught up and got ahead of inflation a little
Yeah,
bit.
I looked it up, $7,000 and $94 is 15,000 in today's dollars.
Okay. So we good with 15? We'll put it
Council?
back
You can go so
with the
far as say
language.
20. 20.
20,
15, 20,
Either.
either 20.
20, I
20
guess it
fine.
is.
Okay.
Give room to grow.
I think that's the last one.
Yeah, okay. So I think we have direction, and now we'll put together a final version, bring it back probably at our next meeting for adoption by the council. So thank
Okay.
you for slogging through that over the last
That was good.
last month or
Good.
two. So
Good to get through the details.
and
Details
now
matter.
we can still have
I don't need to
time.
recess this, right? Do
Yeah, I
recess
guess,
it?
yeah, just adjourn this meeting.
Okay. I'm going to adjourn the city council, city manager work session.
Yeah. Anybody can come.
And we will have All right, I'm going to call the city council for August 12th, 2024 to order. With a declaration of a quorum, we're going to excuse Counselor Hardin. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome this evening. If you're just now joining us, we had a work session earlier to review our city council rules. And we also took a tour of the new IT department. And we took a city hall selfie. A lot accomplished today in that first hour. All right, so on our agenda this evening, do we have any changes, Mr. Smith? Okay. Up first is Hermiston School District Assistant Superintendent Jake Bacon. Welcome. Good evening.
There we go. Well, we're back at it and summer's over. So that's where we are right now. So today was our kickoff to welcome our new hires to the district, and we welcome 33 folks today. Overall, not everybody attended. Some of the folks are returning to Hermiston School District, but were hired as temporary contracts last year, so they're not all brand new to the district. So we're looking right around 40 to 42. We've got a few more hires to lock in here a little bit, but we're sitting pretty good as we're rolling into kids coming. And this week is dedicated to our teacher induction program. So that's where our secondary and elementary instructional coaches and admin will work and help prep and prepare new hires for the first day of school kids. So that's a pretty good time. And then the last part of the week, we'll actually welcome our second year folks and do training with them as well. So it's part of our program to help improve retention, which we've been successful at increasing the last 2 years in a row. So we're pretty excited about that. Also, big news, tomorrow is the last day for sports physicals at the high school. So spread the word if it's out there, if families haven't gotten in, tomorrow's the time. So it is grades 6 through 9 is from 8 to 1 tomorrow at the high school. And then grades 10 through 12 are from 1 o'clock to 6 p.m. all at the high school. And it's free to all Hermiston School District students, which is a great partnership that we have with Good Shepherd that's coming in and helping make that happen. Next week, we welcome all staff on the 19th and really kicks off the true in-service week. We label this one as our pre-in-service. Our district kickoff is going to be on Friday, the 23rd, and then students will return on Wednesday that following week. So the 28th is a big day for all of us, and we'll make sure and put out information too. We are starting that first day of school on a Wednesday, so it's important for parents to be aware of that with our late start and early release. So our elementary students will be released earlier, an hour early, and then our high school kids and middle school kids will arrive an hour later than normal. So for the high school and secondary folks, kids, it's real good. They still got a little bit of a buffer there before they have to fully commit to getting up early. Open house is also taking place next week. Kind of going back in with the timeline, but August 26th will be the elementary and middle school and high school open house. And elementary time is 5:30 to 6:30. Middle schools are from 6 to 7, and then the high school will go from 6 to 7:30. And then first day again is the 28th. And then also a press release put out today. Hitting facility is being put up, and hopefully will be finished here in the near future. So pretty good size. I believe it's a 60 by 120 foot facility. We'll be able to house batting cages, golf simulators, and be able to provide year-round access to it for our kids. And then registration is always going on. So please, if anybody's looking or wondering how to register, have them reach out to a building, the district office, we'll do just about whatever it takes to get folks registered right now. So that, in a nutshell, is first day of school.
Fall sports?
They're getting ready to kick off. And I don't have the first contest dates, but they will be here probably the 1st September.
So, but practices started.
Practices will start I think they can start on the 19th.
Okay.
So
Great.
they're still running conditioning. So kids are going in and getting workouts in the mornings, running it through. So kids have been active all summer thanks to our coaches at the high school, middle school level. They've done a wonderful job just making sure that kids have an opportunity to get in and work out and stay in shape.
Any other questions? Yeah, Mr. Bro?
Thank you, Mr. Bacon. I just having a couple of thoughts about the sports physicals. I think it's a great partnership that the school district and Good Shepherd have together. When I was going to high school in Idaho, we have a similar program, and I was really lucky that my parents also like saw like sports and athletics as a priority, and so those days we definitely made it because just even navigating the healthcare system as a first generation is kind of difficult, and trying to even something maybe so simple as a physical can kind of be difficult. I guess I say that to say that not everybody, and I'm sure you already know this, not everybody's going to be able to make those physical dates. At the middle school, I feel like if there'd be like a day at the beginning of school where you have more of a captive audience that can go there, because I think the early kids here are parents or for the most part, a lot of people do know. And again, I'm not saying that as a negative, because I appreciate that program, and I think it does a lot of good for kids. I guess trying to maybe make a suggestion for the kids that have even a lower barrier to access that would be my suggestion. But again, I know that with the way that partnerships work out, and just even finding a date, but yeah, I just wanted to make that suggestion. And
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Always input to see how we can do it better. Greatly appreciated.
High school still has a health center?
The facility is there. It will be up and running. So we're in partnership with the Umatilla County Health, which is new. So we've been working on that for the last 5 or 6 months. And so we'll open up with hopefully in September,
Right.
which will be nice. Haven't worked with the health center with the county on that, and we're excited about this shift.
Any other questions or comments? Thank
Okay.
you, Mr. Bacon. Always
Right.
good to see you.
You as well. Back
Go
to the board
Bulldogs.
meeting. Okay, we'll see you guys.
All right, now on to first opportunity in our meeting for citizen input on non-agenda items. If there are individuals here this evening who would like to speak to City Council about items that aren't on our current agenda, please welcome yourself up to the microphone up front, introduce yourself by name and address, and direct your comments to me and limit them to less than 5 minutes. You three in the front row, none of you? All right. Consent agenda, items A through D. Do we need to pull any? Seeing none. Any public comment on consent agenda items A through D? Seeing none. Can I get a motion to approve consent agenda items A through D as presented?
So moved.
Been moved by Councilor Primer, seconded by Councilor Duran, that we approve consent agenda items A through D as presented. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously, 7-0. On to 10A, Resolution 2334, initiate vacation proceedings for frontage road easement parallel to East Elm Avenue. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, Mr. Spencer, got that one?
Tonight, the council just has in front of you a resolution to initiate vacation proceedings. That would be basically setting a hearing date for the first meeting in September for an easement that is about 2,000 feet long, running between the old CenturyLink building on Elm and the new mini storage. When that area was annexed in the 80s, the city required dedication of a 60-foot public road easement, presumably for the creation of a frontage road along Elm Avenue. Metal Max came in with a new building plan and would like to do some expansions in there, and they realized we could probably locate this a lot better if there wasn't the 60-foot easement along Elm holding us back. And the city has no intention of ever putting in a frontage road, so this would initiate the vacation proceedings for that.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Any questions, council? Any public comment on resolution number 2334? Okay, can I get a motion to adopt resolution 2334 and lay it upon the record?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Primer, seconded by Counselor McCarthy, that we adopt resolution number 234 and lay it upon the record. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Ordinance number 2360, comprehensive plan map, Myra and Felipe Reyes, 4N2812C, tax lot 308, 1088 East Newport Avenue. Mr. Spencer.
Tonight, if it pleases the council, I'll just do one staff report for both 2360 and 2361.
Sounds good.
At your last council meeting, we held a public hearing on annexing 2 acres of land at 1088 East Newport Avenue. The applicant originally came in with a request to annex that as R3. Through discussions with the public hearing and discussions with the council felt that it was more appropriate to annex that 2 acres with an R2 designation, and directed council or staff to go back and prepare the findings and ordinances to do this with an R2 rather than R3 annexation. And that is what you have in front of you tonight, are those ordinances amending the comprehensive plan map from our future residential to our low density residential, and annexing the property then with the R2 designation. You have findings of fact that are attached to those ordinances in support of those motions.
Okay. Any council comments about this one? Councilor Lynn?
At our, I believe it was our last meeting, we had did have a discussion on whether or not to pass this. And we had a number of people, we had one that came in that was for it, and we had a number of people that lived in the area that were against it. And so I just wanted to make sure that that was on the record, that this, whatever happens, it was because, I don't know, going against what the neighborhood wanted. And I feel that as counselors, and we're representing the constituents of Hermiston or in that neighborhood, that we should have taken in consideration and not to have, or not to vote this to pass.
Okay, any other comments from the council? Yeah, Ms. Strawn.
After that meeting, when we had, folks come in and speak their mind in opposition of this particular topic, did your department hear from anybody else?
No, just the people who spoke at the hearing. And it is important to remember, anytime we do any land use actions, that there are appeal rights available for that, to appeal to what's called the State of Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals. So yes, there is opposition, and there are avenues for due process to continue when you do have opponents.
Do you know of any appeals?
The appeal cannot be filed until the council has a final decision. So an appeal couldn't be done until tonight. And then they have 21 days.
Any others that have, I want to give everybody an opportunity first. Yeah, Councilor Primer.
So I do think it is also important to remember is, and this is kind of sound bad to a certain extent, I guess, but the people that are voting against, or that are against it, are not city residents. We do not represent them by this body. They do have a separate, because this is, because there is a county segment to this as well, and they have the ability to go to that county segment and appeal to that as well. So, keeping in mind that there's two bodies that, or actually three bodies that looked at this, so.
Did you have a comment?
Councilor Linton.
I would like to know, since you said that they can appeal this and have different options to where they can go and appeal,
Mhm.
does the Does your office send them this information so they'll know that they have this?
We are required by law to send out a notice of decision to all people who participate. And then in that, we not only lay out the decision, we lay out the findings of fact, then we say you have 21 days to file this with the Land Use Board of Appeals and give them the website to go to for that.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from the council? Any public comment on ordinance number 2360? Okay. So our first action, we're going to go through the ordinance actions and then we'll go through a motion. And I think there's 3 motions we need to consider. Is that right? Mr. Tubby? Okay. So mayor requests first reading of the ordinance be read by title only and calls for a roll call. Roll call?
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Tubby?
Move that up today. First reading of ordinance number 2360, an ordinance amending the City of Hermiston Comprehensive Plan Map to convert certain lands from urbanizable status to urban status located within the urban growth boundary of the City of Hermiston in accord with the provisions of Policy 6 and the city's comprehensive plan.
Mayor requests that the ordinance be put on for final adoption at this meeting, and that the second reading be by title only and calls for a roll call. Roll call?
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Tubby?
Second reading by title only of ordinance number 2360, an ordinance amending the City of Hermiston Comprehensive Plan Map to convert certain lands from urbanizable status to urban status located within the urban growth boundary of the City of Hermiston in accord with the provisions of Policy 6 in the city's comprehensive plan.
Thank you. So the first motion is to adopt the findings of fact in support of the ordinances as listed in Exhibit A. Can I get that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is that David? Yeah. Counselor McCarthy made the motion, seconded by Counselor Myers, that we adopt the findings of fact in support of the ordinance as listed in Exhibit A. Do we need to do each of these individually? Roll call each of them?
Yes.
Okay, roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
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 Motion passes 6-1 with Counselor Linton in opposition. Motion to adopt conditions of approval as listed in Exhibit B. Can I get that motion?
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Counselor Myers, seconded by Counselor McCarthy to adopt conditions of approval as listed in Exhibit B. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
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 Motion passes 6-1. Counselor Linton in opposition. Motion that ordinance number 2360 be adopted and become effective 30 days after co-adoption by Umatilla County Board of Commissioners. Can I get that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Then moved by Counselor Primer, seconded by Counselor Myers, that motion, or that ordinance 2360 be adopted, become effective 30 days after co-adoption by Umatilla County Board of Commissioners. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
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 Motion passes 6-1. Counselor Linton in opposition. On to ordinance number 2361, annexation Myra and Felipe Reyes, 4N 2812C, tax lot 308, 1088 East Newport Avenue. Mr. Spencer, so this is the annexation procedure.
Mhm.
Just went through and adopted a change to the comprehensive plan map. Now we're going to annex that property into the city.
That's it in a nutshell.
Okay, so do you need, you already read through all the findings of fact and all that sort of stuff. Does the council need any clarification on that? Okay, any comments, any further comments? Any public comment? Okay. Mayor requests first reading of the ordinance be read by title only and calls for a roll call. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
Counselor Linton?
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Tubby?
First reading of ordinance number 2361, an ordinance annexing certain real property abutting East Newport Avenue, Southeast 11th Street, and East Tamarack Avenue, describing said real property, withdrawing said real property from special districts, and designating zoning.
Mayor requests that the ordinance be put on for final adoption at this meeting, that the second reading be by title only and calls for a roll call. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Tubby?
Second reading by title only of ordinance number 2361, an ordinance annexing certain real property abutting East Newport Avenue, Southeast 11th Street, and East Tamarack Avenue, describing said real property, withdrawing said real property from special districts, and designating zoning.
Can I get a motion that ordinance number 2361 be adopted and become effective 30 days after co-adoption of ordinance number 2360 by Umatilla County Board of Commissioners?
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Counselor McCarthy, seconded by Counselor Barone, that ordinance number 2361 be adopted, become effective 30 days after co-adoption of ordinance 2360 by the Umatilla County Board of Commissioners. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
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 Motion passes 6-1. Counselor Linton in opposition. Congratulations, Myra and Felipe Reyes. Ordinance number 2362, updating requirements for parade permits and right-of-way closure permit. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as we went through these ordinances at our last meeting, made really very few changes to kind of meet some of the comments that we received. I did want to, my staff report did not get updated as I had intended. So first, there are three current events that are exempted under the proposed ordinance. That's the Fair Parade, the Senior Walk, and the Martin Luther King Jr. Walk. And the rest of it basically sets up designated parade routes. There'll be a set permit fee that we would propose to be adopted at our next meeting with an update of the master fee schedule, and that that there would be a kind of a longer route, community center to north on 3rd to Main, west on Main to 2nd, south on 2nd to community center, and then a kind of a point-to-point type of a route from the community center north to City Hall. Then a non-designated parade route instead of a set fee, there would be a 75% of total cost is what we're proposing. There's an advance notice for the application, and then just insurance requirements, all those types of things. There could be it describes what cost recovery is, so the different pieces of that. And Councilor Primer and I were talking earlier about, maybe we program into that cost, cleaning up afterwards, that type of thing. So street sweeping, some of that. Then temporary street closures for other types of events, so barricades, and we can put conditions on it, and we need a 30-day notice to start that process. So be happy to answer any questions. Like I said, we're going to propose the fees, the specific fees, at our next meeting, because we anticipate maybe some additional fees, so we can have one change to the resolution based on our second discussion tonight on mobile vending. So
Okay, any council comments, questions about ordinance number 2362?
Oh, I believe I did have something.
No? Yeah, Counselor Brown?
And just wanted to clarify, and just make sure I heard right. City Manager Smith, you said that the Martin Luther King Jr. March is also one of the exempt ones, right?
yes, and it's in the ordinance that way. I just did not get
Okay.
that reflected in my staff report.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Comments? Any public comments?
Councilor Duran had a
Counselor
comment,
Duran?
sir.
Well, under parades, you don't include that. Is that what you meant?
No, the exemption is on page 2, and it's right before it's at the end of the D section, so it's D3, and it says Umatilla County Fair Parade, Martin Luther King Jr. Walk, and the Hermiston High School Senior Walk are not subject to the designated parade route restrictions.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Any public comment about ordinance number 2362? Okay. Mayor requests first reading of the ordinance be read by title only and calls for a roll call. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Tubby?
First reading by title only of ordinance number 2362, an ordinance amending Title 7 of the Hermiston Municipal Code by amending Chapter 71 entitled Traffic Rules by adding Section 7101, permits required for parades, and 7103, temporary street closures.
Thank you. Mayor requests that the ordinance be put on for final adoption at this meeting, and that the second reading be by title only, and calls for a roll call. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Tubby?
Second reading by title only of ordinance number 2362, an ordinance amending Title 7 of the Hermiston Municipal Code by amending Chapter 71 entitled Traffic Rules and by adding Section 7101, permits required for parades, and 7103, temporary street closures. Mr. Mayor.
Can I get a motion that ordinance number 2362 be adopted, become effective 30 days after adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Counselor Meyer, seconded by Counselor Primer, that ordinance number 2362 be adopted, become effective 30 days after adoption. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Oops, sorry. Yes.
Yes.
You're doing it?
It was unanimous, I think. Counselor Duran, was that a yes?
Yes.
All right, it was unanimous, 7-0. Proposed amendments to Chapter 116, regulating mobile food vending. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'll take the lead, but Mr. Spencer, Mr. Tuvey were involved in kind of putting a lot of these proposed changes together so they can help me fill in the blank. But we brought this kind of, I really like the way the parade discussion went, where we had a discussion and then we bring back an ordinance for adoption. So that's the process we're at tonight. So in April, we had somebody come and testify to you about the difficulty of being able to get a license for a mobile food vending location, and that kind of comes on top of some of the comments that the planning department gets when requests come in, that it's so difficult to find a place. And so we went after that and just took a look at some of our requirements, compared it to our kind of neighbors in Eastern Oregon. What kinds of things are they doing related to that? And so before you tonight, and also we did some surveying, asking the public through some of our online stuff what they were interested in as far as mobile vending was concerned. So what we've done is broaden the number of licenses to 4 different types of licenses. We removed the 90-day license because, Clint, did anybody ever use that?
Ever.
Yeah. And so there can be an annual truck license and then a 30-day cart license. Then under our code currently, there wouldn't be an opportunity for someone to do a private food pod that we've seen kind of be successful in other communities. So we made provisions to that where that could occur. And then reduced the requirement for trucks to move. That's a complaint we've heard from the current vendors, and nobody else is requiring that, but move it to once a week for at least 12 hours rather than that they had to move every day. Then what's before you, it would eliminate the 400-foot spacing. So rather than using that type of a location restriction on the number of food trucks, just limiting the number of licenses that would be available. Before we'd combine that, but this way with the number, then you don't get the widespread one on every corner that people might be concerned about. And then we've eliminated the requirement for parking spaces, but not eliminate it, change it to where instead of a specific number, but that they needed to show that if they're located on a location with another building or something, that there would be sufficient parking for both uses that would be on the property. So still requiring some parking to be available, but not a specific number. And then also remove the requirement that the trucks be painted white or a neutral color. I think the food truck culture is a little more colorful than beige. So there are a few other minor alterations in the code, but those are the major policy kind of changes. And with that, be happy to have a discussion, answer any questions or concerns.
Council questions? Yes, Council McCarthy.
In my quick research, which is basically just what are other cities doing as far as a 400-foot requirement? Because I think that was one of the major things we had been considering in our last meeting. It seemed that the average is a little bit wider spread, like you need maybe a 500 or 600. So I'm curious if in the information you have that people that have requirements are not limiting the number of licenses? Or were we doubling down and other cities are not doing that?
Clint, did
Of
we see
the
the doubling
Eastern
down?
Oregon cities I surveyed, none of them had a spacing requirement at all. I'm not aware of any around us that have that, but no, they are not limiting the license numbers.
Okay.
Yes, Council Linton.
Yes, I would like to see the 400 feet remain as original. Hermiston is right now, it is a very pretty town. I've been to a lot of cities in this country and a lot overseas and as well, like to travel. But there are some very pretty cities and then there are some that are not. It just doesn't look good because there's too many pods or whatever you want to call them on about every street corner. And sometimes you have people that go out in the middle of the street. I actually bought something for someone that did that. I won't say what country I was in, but but I don't want to see that happening here in Hermiston. I don't want to see a bunch of food trucks on 395. I mean, that area it looks good. I've even had family that come here this year and they're out of North Carolina. And they were talking about moving here because they think it's so pretty, And so I think, I don't know if I could use the term integrity of the town, but I think that we should keep Hermiston looking good and not just full of the same type of trucks all the way down 395. I wouldn't mind seeing another food pot like we have over here off of whatever that street's called. Orchard, somewhere on Main Street, because a lot of people still go on Main Street, and I think that would even bring in more people on Main Street if we can find an area there where there could be a different variety of food trucks.
Okay, I mean, I would just offer up, rather than the 400-foot restriction, we're restricting it, and we're only offering 6 licenses. And so we wouldn't get a proliferation of trucks. How many licenses do we have right now, Clint?
We have 3 and a 4th one that's almost ready for approval.
So. I
So would
mean,
those 6 trucks be able to be lining up down 395?
They would still have to meet all of the other requirements with the adequate parking. They'd have to keep, they wouldn't be allowed to do the awnings, and they would have to have garbage and do all those other things to keep it nice. But
if they were able to do all of that, all 6 of them could be down 395.
I don't know, would there be 6 locations on
Well, look at all the
395?
coffee plants.
I guess I would ask for some clarification if the council was interested in retaining a spacing standard. If you would like to see it from brick and mortar restaurants and food trucks or just food trucks? Because when we have the 400-foot spacing standard from brick and mortar restaurants, as you might remember from the maps, there is not an available space between Rite Aid and the north end of town. It's not even possible to locate on 395 right now. So, but if you were to change it to a 400-foot spacing standard from other trucks or 500 feet, that would prevent buildup or everybody clustering in one place, but still offer up actual spaces to locate.
Council Brown, are you raising your hand? Is this a hand raise?
I'm of the mindset that I really appreciate the recommendations. I think the last time we had this discussion, I was on record saying 100 feet or nothing. And I understand that social media is, it's anecdotal evidence. It's not necessarily everything, but I do remember the city posting surveys, and I do remember a lot of people expressing interest in having no restrictions. I also remember there being a survey, so it would have been really nice to see some of the results, or at least how many people were saying what. But that being said, my assumption is all of the decisions or the recommendations that the staff is making is based on all that evidence that they've been able to see. And so I'm of the opinion to follow the staff recommendation. I think this is going to do a great thing for our town. A lot of people have complained about the lack of food options, and I think this is a really easy step for a small business to try something out. I know that there's a lot of other vendors that have not come to Hermiston for that specific reason because of how restrictive we are. We just had Mr. Spencer say that we're the only like city in Eastern Oregon that had any of these restrictions, and no other city in Eastern Oregon has any of these. So it's been difficult for a lot of I would say food vendors to break into the market here. And so I'm of the mindset of loosening up the restrictions and following what the staff has recommended. Everybody I've talked to, emails that I received as a counselor have been nothing but supportive of eliminating these restrictions and making it more easier for entrepreneurs to have some success here in this town. And so I would like to fully recommend what the staff is recommending, and especially just giving more opportunities to food trucks.
Council Primer?
I think one of the things that Mr. Spencer said was important to realize is that yes, nobody, none of the other cities in Eastern Oregon may do this. However, none of them are our size either. We're bigger than everybody else. So, we have more people, more real estate, so to speak, in certain extents. So I'm thinking that I do believe that we should have some kind of a distance requirement, some kind of a component to, if nothing else, just to provide some respite between the different businesses. So so you're not having people stacked up on top of one another. And so that it doesn't, Main Street doesn't become just one food truck after the other, or, because while there's only this many of this particular license, you have 3 other license types that are included in there that could be included in that as well. So while there is only 6 licenses that for that specific type of food truck, how many of those other license types, granted the event ones are a separate entity all themselves, but the other 2 could be used in conjunction with that. So I think that we need to look at possibly keeping a distance factor in there.
Council Peterson?
Oh,
So first off, I will say that I agree with Councilor Barone. And also, we talk about what the culture is in Hermiston. And also, we can talk about what it's evolving as we grow larger. And one way that people evolve as a culture is, they sit around the same table. And quite often, there's a reason why we say breaking bread together. And so when you've got, a couple of food trucks sitting next to each other, and you've got people standing outside, eating lunch, whatever it is that they want, and you've got that diversification opportunity, then you've got a chance for community to, become tighter. It gives people a chance to talk that might not otherwise have, had that opportunity, because you are getting that diversity that having all of that, all those different options provides. And, as Hermiston continues to thrive and grow, the only way we're going to feel like we're growing together is by having that face-to-face interaction. And that's one of the things that these trucks provide. So I would much rather see, trucks of different flavors and people of different flavors and styles than a bunch of, basically monopoly style businesses. And so, having a bunch of them down on Main Street because that's going to get shoppers up and down Main Street. That sounds great. But I don't think, especially the way the culture of like food trucks is rolling out and seeing the benefits in other cities. I think this is a great option that we should definitely make use of, especially as Hermiston is continuing to grow. And I don't want us to lose contact with each other.
Counselor Drown?
I appreciate that you're bringing this back again because that shows to our community members that when they come to the meetings, we're listening to what they say. And I think one of the reasons why that particular vendor came up was because she felt restricted. And so I think by loosening things a bit, that will maybe give us in the future, we might be looking at a different food pot in a different section of Hermiston. I think it's, if we're gonna grow, I think we should also allow other entrepreneurs to also be able to kind of get closer to what they want to do. Granted, if it doesn't work out for them, then at least they tried, and at least they know that the city actually listened to what they had to say and that it was up for consideration. I think the city still has the way of kind of keeping track of those licenses, and if you see that there's a problem, I'm sure that you guys will bring it back to us and say, hey, it's becoming a problem, look into it again. So I'm in favor of what Councilor Barron said, and as well as Councilor Peterson.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to walk through the licenses because there are 4 types. They wouldn't necessarily all overlap necessarily with each other. So I just want to make sure that you are clear with that. So a type 1 license would be for a very small food cart, 100 square feet or less. And it's a 30-day license at any one location, and they have to leave every day from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. The type 2 is the one that we're probably talking about most, which is what we normally would count as a food truck. And those are the ones that are limited to 6 licenses. Then the type 3 license is more of a special event. So let's say somebody brought in a carnival or whatever, and they held it in a parking lot somewhere. This would be less than 7 days, and there's some restrictions about how close they could be to any other event. So you couldn't have 3 of these events on properties right next to each other, those kind of things. So there's a little bit there. And then the 4th license is what we're calling it would be a lunch truck license, but it's more of a that would go out to a job site and only be in operation during those midday hours to service the construction crews that are working. So just wanted to be clear so everybody understood what we were talking about.
So, Mr. Spencer, I have a couple questions that I think I need clarification on as well. You had suggested not moving as often, so once a week instead of daily. Talk through the public health issue of that. Where does water, wastewater, that sort of stuff go in, a 7-day period?
Generally, these units are self-contained. In fact, I think under our code, they're required to be self-contained with their gray water stored in there. You can empty your tank into a portable unit and then dump that at a site, or you can, if you have a big enough tank, the idea is that once a week moving is when you would actually be emptying that gray water tank.
And so who's monitoring that sort of stuff? Is that county health? Or
Yeah,
is that our,
for maintenance of tanks and things, yeah, we don't get into that.
so it's not our code enforcement officer that's going to make sure that they're not dumping wastewater out on?
If that were to happen and we witnessed it, yes, we would definitely cite that, but it's not that we're going to be going and inspecting and saying, where are you dumping your tanks?
Yeah. Okay. Second question I had was the event license. It says 1 per event, but that doesn't limit the number of vendors during that event. Is that accurate?
Right. So then whatever, let's say
Carnival.
JoJo's Carnival,
Right.
they would license it in whatever food vendors they had
They could have
would
12 food
fall under
vendors.
that
Yeah, okay.
license, and that would last.
I just want to
for-
make sure that it wasn't limiting them to the number of food vendors they could have at that event. Okay. Any other counts? Yeah, Councilman.
With the license, I'm talking about number 2, where it says 6 licenses. Are these licenses going to be, say, for a specific type of food, say for instance, 6 food trucks come in and they're all Italian food, and they all want to be $3.95, that would be okay? Something like that, or is it has to be a variety? You'll give one for this type of food, one for that, or no?
Yeah, we wouldn't get in the business of trying to
Okay.
decide what types of food.
Okay.
I mean, we do have, I mean, we are trying to get some variety in the food pod that we own
Right.
and administrate, but we wouldn't do that with these licenses.
Okay.
Whoever was in got the license, whatever kind of food they wanted.
You
Okay.
may remember from earlier this summer, there was a viral news story that a court had declared that a taco is a sandwich. That comes out of exactly that type of municipal regulation. So, yeah, we have to have a sandwich license now. Well, I want to sell tacos. Went to court and
Make
a
no
taco
sense.
is a sandwich.
Oh, wow.
Made that decision.
So, Mr. Spencer, can you give us
I heard some of the-
specific locations of the current licenses?
Yes, there is one on Cornell Place, that is Tacos Javi. So right there by Walmart. That is a legacy license prior to adoption of the current code. All of our licenses are. Tacos Pericutine is.
Great
what is
Sleep
it
Shop,
to?
Eastern
Yeah,
Oregon
it's the
Physical Therapy. Yeah.
where the cottage used to be. They're
Yeah,
behind there.
it's Eastern Oregon Physical Therapy,
Yes.
Greg Sleep Center, yeah.
And then Tacos Garcia is a legacy from the food pod. He's directly north of the food pod site. We have a fourth one that has just been approved for 11th Street Market.
11th Street Market?
Mhm.
So,
Okay, so there's only two more we're talking
Two more possible.
two more
so there's
options.
only
of it.
one that's actually on 395 out of the.
Well,
ones that
Taco
we have.
Zavi is kind of, and so is Pericutine.
Yeah.
They're
Oh,
kinda-
okay. I thought-
Yeah,
Neither of them are really visible
yeah, they're
from
not visible
395,
off
but
of
they both derive their main access.
yeah.
A lot of business
Councilor
down.
Preston.
Just want to comment that I think for probably just about any food truck to be successful, they probably would want to create an attractive appearance, especially when you have the option to go and sit down for some of the same things that the food trucks are serving. So I'm not personally concerned with basically only 2 licenses left that we'd need to worry about the appearance of Hermiston along 395 with 2 more food trucks, essentially, being diminished, especially when some of the coolest things to look at, in my opinion, are food trucks.
Have you been down to Pendleton and seen that one area of food trucks? It looks terrible. So. hopefully that won't
I mean, there were reasons that this was put in place.
Yes.
There were some food trucks in town that were not very presentable that
Well, and I think
Think we're
some of the
respectful for
rules we
you.
have
Right.
are still take care of that, so.
absolutely, yeah. No,
This
I mean,
doesn't-
there was a reason, that's why we did it, yeah.
It was basically the awnings and stuff that they were torn and
Falling down, and trash
raggedy
outside.
looking and
Yeah.
trash all over the place, but they cleaned all that up,
Yep.
so.
No, with the new regulations.
still have protections in this for them.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. Okay, any other comment from the council? Any public comment about proposed amendments to chapter 116 regulating mobile food vending? Please introduce yourself by name and address. Limit your comments to less than 5 minutes and direct them to me. Will you, yep, turn it on.
Are we good now?
There we go.
All
Good.
right. I am Tyler Ben Dixon. This is my wife, Tara Ben Dixon. We're residents of 1082 East Highland Avenue in Hermiston. Thanks for the opportunity to address the council this evening. We are the co-owners of the business Soda Craze. We operate a mobile food unit and have been in operation since June of this year. We are longtime Hermiston residents and for the better part of 4 years have been trying to start a new business. One of the many challenges we have faced has been the restrictive nature of Hermiston city ordinances regarding mobile food vending. We began our venture intending to open a drive-through brick and mortar business in Hermiston, but due to the lack of available existing drive-throughs and after a failed attempt at establishing a new drive-through, we have pivoted our focus to mobile food vending. As you know, the rule requiring 400 feet of distance between a mobile food vendor and any other food service establishment restricts nearly every available commercial property on or around Highway 395 and most other commercial properties around town. Our only viable options were to operate during special events only or to start operations in the mobile food pod. As we have focused our efforts on various events throughout the summer, we have been pleased by the enthusiasm shown by our community members for our product. We have turned a profit at every event we have been to. However, our aim has always been to have a regular business presence in Hermiston beyond special events. As a result, we have turned to neighboring communities that have fewer restrictions. The city of Stanfield has been more than welcoming and has approved us to operate on a regular basis within their city limits. The city of Umatilla approached us and offered us a $20,000 grant to invest if we choose to open a brick and mortar business within their city. We are disheartened that our own hometown has not shown the same enthusiasm for small businesses such as ours. We are encouraged, however, by the renewed desire to revisit the city ordinances regarding mobile food vending. We are here tonight to show our support for amending the city ordinances to ease the burdens placed upon prospective mobile food vending entrepreneurs. Having reviewed the proposed changes brought about by Mr. Smith, Mr. Spencer, and other committee members, we wholeheartedly endorse these proposed amendments. We hope that these proposed changes are, as they are discussed, you will approach these with an open mind and a renewed enthusiasm to welcome and support mobile vending. Thank you.
Thank you. Others that would like to speak this evening? Okay. So there's no action being requested, right?
Right.
City staff just wanted feedback on the draft ordinances. I don't know how you felt about the conversation. Do you feel like there's some consensus around stuff, or is there, you need some clarification on?
Byron, what are your thoughts? I'm a little unclear, but I don't read people that well.
My consensus, there is support to support your recommendations.
That's,
I think it's enough to bring an action for a vote.
I agree.
and that's where I would have been, is that I did hear some dissent about certain
couple, yeah.
provisions, which, that's why we're here to talk about stuff
Mhm.
like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think we would probably be moving forward, bring it back at our next meeting. So.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, Councilor McCarthy.
Just if it's possible, I would like to see a little bit more input from the restaurant maybe and food truck community. If there's a way to spread that word out, I'd appreciate hearing more input if we can do that.
We'll do the best we can. We can't make them come.
Right.
But
You're talking about like a public notice or something?
Something like
Yeah,
that.
okay. Councilor Linton,
Never mind.
nothing? Okay. All right, we're going to move on to committee reports, city council and liaisons. Any committee reports? Anyone? Nobody? All right. Everybody took the summer off, or the
Canceled due to the fair.
July
Yeah.
off. All right. The only thing in the mayor's report, wanted to thank you all for participating in National Night Out. Another great event. Well attended. Thanks to the police department. Thanks to the fire department for hosting it. Enjoyable. Yeah, it was a fun event. And I got to ride in the front seat of the new ladder truck and push all the fancy buttons. So that was fun. Thank you all too for participating. Those of you that were able to participate in the parade, that was fun. I liked the new route. I think it was really well attended. I have some concerns about the trash down 395 and cleaning that up appropriately.
We were talking about that earlier.
I think it looks horrible now. So a better process next year, I think, could be put in place to help clean that up. But overall, kids came away with buckets of candy. So anyway, I think that was well received, and I was able to attend the fair parade, or the county fair, and went to a couple concerts. I went to the rodeo. Seemed like everybody was having a good time, and went well. So thank you to Farm City Pro Rodeo and Umatilla County Fair Board for putting that on, and another successful year of hosting those two events here in Hermiston. So I think it went really well. Council comments? Yeah. Councilor McCarthy.
We've got our city picnic coming up this Thursday.
Yes, sir.
We also have, if you haven't turned in Byron Smith's evaluation, need to get that done by the 15th, I believe. And I just want to say, and also Melon Fest this Saturday, right outside here. So show up. I know we'll be here. The radio station will be here with the money machine again. And I just want to say thank you also to the mayor and Councilor Peterson for helping in judging the cutest baby contest. It sounds like nobody came to protest of the approximately 70 babies that did not win a prize.
It was tough, really tough.
How
There's
long did
so
you
many.
stay there?
Yeah, as soon as you were announced, I was out.
Yeah.
It was tough. A lot of cute babies. Yeah.
God, and I-
So,
And then they've got two parents who are all giving
don't
you dirty.
judge, right? But neither one of us is up for election, so we didn't care.
That's why yeah.
All right, Councilor Linton.
I just wanted to say, thank you to the code enforcer, Daniel, I don't know his last name, but what is it?
Taylor.
Daniel Taylor, he's doing a pretty good job, you know. Some of you may know about the house 2 blocks down, or about a block and a half down from mine, the problems that we've been having, and he's been up on it and trying to resolve the issue. And I understand with all of the laws and how things are written up, that there's only so much that can be done, but I really appreciate what is being done. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, to follow up on that, we had a member of the community come and vociferously complain with us at a recent city council meeting, and want to say thank you to the chief of police and city administration for sitting down and making sure that those issues were being heard and addressed and informed, so that people know exactly what are the legal limits to what we can and can't do with people's personal property. So we never want to see those situations happen within our community. Unfortunately, there are some people that are not community members, that are thoughtful community members, taking care of their personal property, and we have to put up with them. Non-compliant, non-resident members of our community that make it really challenging and difficult, and can make a community or a specific area of a community kind of ugly. And so thank you for taking the ownership of that and having that conversation and trying to do everything we can within the legal realms. So, Councilor McCarthy, you got something else?
Oh, just, remember we had a conversation earlier while we were waiting for the meeting to start with Mr. Tovey concerning our prosecutor progress. And we haven't made an announcement here in this council meeting, so I don't know if you want to talk about that.
All right.
Okay.
How about over here? Anybody?
No.
Councilor Drumm?
A national night out, and it was so awesome to see the community members from that block, and I really enjoy that. And I also wanted to say, I told the police chief already, but I happened to attend a mandatory reporting training put on also by some of the members of the police department, and I thought it was wonderfully done. I know that they do it to whoever requests that, I think. But it was really, I mean, I take an online training every year for my job about that and other topics, but the level of training that they provided and the detailed information was so beneficial. And I think it's great that they put it on, because we're dealing with kids, and a very vulnerable population. And so I appreciate what they do.
Very good. Councilor Primer?
Yeah, in regards to what you mentioned earlier about the fair and the rodeo, I spent a considerable amount of time at both of those events over the last week. And
You didn't bounce any of these
I-
people out of here, did they?
we'll talk about that. But in any case, one of the things I wanted to bring up, especially in front of this body, is that, you know, there was a great deal of, and I hate using this word, but collaboration between all the law enforcement agencies and first responders in that event, and all agencies in this area participated in working at that event and making it a safe and comfortable event for people to work. We got a lot of compliments on how much people felt comfortable at the fair, and it was due to the work done by all of the folks that were up there, both volunteers, the people involved with the fair itself, law enforcement. Some of our own Hermiston Police Department folks were up there working as well, did a great job. Everybody worked together. Anything that came up was dealt with swiftly and certainly, and we didn't have any major issues to speak of. We had one halfway serious crime that was committed, and it was caught almost immediately. So it was a great event, and I can't thank everybody that was involved with it enough, that did a great job and made everybody proud. We did our city proud with this event. So thank you to everybody that was involved with it.
Even traffic flow, honestly. You know, sometimes Friday nights and Saturday nights, traffic can get really bad, but it flowed really,
We
really
got way
well.
out.
Well,
Yeah.
Saturday, and the interesting thing is that Saturday night was a really, you know, we had an event that took place. We had an issue that took place that took a bunch of people away from the duties of taking care of traffic, and HPD and state police stepped in and took care of business in no time flat, and they did a fantastic job of getting that, you know, you know, again, we were, you know, the slack that had to be happen because of everything else that was going on. They took that up and they ran with it, and like I said, enough good things can't be said. And thanks to Jason and your crew.
And we'll make sure the liaisons at EOTech relay some of those comments up there when you have your meeting with them. It's great. Anything else from the council? Yeah, Council Burrow?
Shout out Team USA and your
Yeah,
40
right.
gold. So
Yeah.
just shout out to
Some
that.
Oregonians.
Right? Also making the country proud. So I thought it was kind of some cool moments of national unity, in my opinion. But
Agreed.
Yeah.
I agree. We do not have any students this evening, so Mr. Smith?
Yeah, just a couple of items, since we've already mentioned the pool party, Thursday, 5:30. Please come, even if you haven't RSVP'd, I think we can find some food for you.
Is
And
Lily barbecuing?
we're doing delish. We're
Delish.
And then, as Mr. McCarthy was saying, I appreciate that the council granted us flexibility to potentially hire a full-time, you know, employee prosecutor. When we got down into the negotiations with the same person, they decided that they preferred at this point to go with a contract. So we went back to a contract with them, and they've been in now the second week, right? So things are going well. We're happy, and hopefully they like living here, and they'll be kind of moving out here and making it more permanent. So we're happy with that.
Awesome.
Dakota, and I forgot her, Dakota Steel.
Okay. Mr. Smith, will we have another path update this fall?
Yeah, we have our monthly meeting with them this week, and I'll set a date and have them scheduled to come to a.
Is it appropriate to do another tour, or
Yeah, and we could look at that.
see the progress that they've made and how that's?
Yeah, I'll talk with Jesselyn and see what she thinks about how to do that.
Okay. Anything else, council? All right, we are adjourned. Almost in an hour.